Welcome to the Feast Life, where we empower you, the modern homeschool mom, to create a life and homeschool you love, one founded on faith, family, freedom, and fun. I'm your host, Julie Ross, creator of the award-winning homeschool curriculum, A Gentle Feast, and a certified Christian life coach. For more information on today's episode and to access my free gift for you, check out thefeastlife.me. Charlotte Mason once said, "Life should be all living, not a mere tedious passing of time." So on this show, we seek to savor the feast of life. Girl, grab your favorite beverage and pull up a chair. You are welcome at this table. Hey everyone, welcome to the Feast Life. I am so excited today to be talking to Amy Bodkin, who just released a new book called Special Needs Kids Are People Too. And I'm just so interested in this topic, and I love talking to you every time we get to chat together. So thank you for coming on.
I love talking to you too, Julie.
Yes. So we've met in person several times, which has been very fun. And
Yeah.
I love, first of all, thank you for writing this. I think this book was a book that needed to be written. I
Aw.
haven't seen anything like that where it combines just insight into some of the different needs that are out there, but also focusing on the humanity of these children. So can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what made you want to write the book from that perspective?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. First and foremost, Rachel Lebowitz at a Charlotte Mason plenary was the one who said, "You need to write a book." And I was like, now hold on. If I'm going to write a book, it's going to be something worth saying. And I
Yeah.
was thinking, what are the books that have said something that are worth saying to me? And of course, Charlotte Mason Homeschooler, the first thing that comes to mind is Charlotte Mason's book.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, what is worth saying? That was the question I asked myself first, is what is worth saying? And what I eventually came to was that it's not how you do things. It's not a how-to manual, which is what most of the special needs stuff is
Yes.
out there.
Yep.
It's like, how do you parent? How do you fix your kid? All this other stuff.
Very
And
focused on like behavior modification.
yes, a
Yes.
lot of that. And I really realized that what I wanted to do was to talk about the philosophy from which we approach parenting, homeschooling, teaching, whatever our connection is to special needs kids. What's the philosophy that should guide how we do that? So,
Yes. That's so great and so needed. So can you dive into that? What is the philosophy that you got that?
so my basic philosophy is that children are born persons, obviously. And so I did get some inspiration from Charlotte Mason, but I also had inspiration from a lot of other people that kind of helped create that philosophy. So yes, children are people. We should respect and honor them for who they are.
Yeah.
But then also we need to take this from a holistic perspective because a child is a person.
Right.
And so they're not just a brain, they're not just a body, they're not just their reading skills or any of the other things that can sometimes define us. And so those things, and then also combined with the fact that a lot of times we stop at your brain and your body, but that there's more to you than just that, because your brain and your body are not what gives you value.
Yes.
Because we've tried to do that in the past. Charlotte Mason wrote about that a lot too, about how World War I and World War II, it was all about not honoring personhood and what gives someone value, because it was thought, well, if we just, value if they're a good brain or if they're a good body, then they have value. But no, it's more than that. And so trying to help parents, no matter what their background is, to figure out ways to acknowledge that we are kind of body, mind, and soul.
Yes, it's so key. And it's not something that we often talk about. And I get this question. Okay, before we dive in, because I have so many questions. Let's define terms. Can we start there? Because I think that's important. Because you said like the title of it is Special Needs Kids Are People Too. But oftentimes nowadays, instead of special needs, I hear neurodivergent. So can you explain how you view those two terms?
Yeah. So the problem I ran into when I started doing what I do is that I work with families from a wide range of places. I've got families who are cancer survivors. I've got families who deal with chronic health conditions. I've got families who deal with physical conditions. Just so many different things that don't neatly fall into that neurodivergent package. And sometimes we're not ready to embrace the moniker of neurodivergent, because if you were a typically developing kid and then all of a sudden you get a diagnosis that changes your development, that's a whole process that we have to walk through. And so I realized that neurodivergent just wasn't a good descriptor because it really left out so many people. But also it's more than that, because when you really think about it, every single one of us has some kind of a need that's outside the average that needs to be accommodated for at some point in our life.
Yep.
Because nobody gets out of this life without trauma. And I
Yep.
like to tell people, if you do, come back and tell us how you did it.
Yeah.
um,
Amen.
yeah. If we don't get out of this life without some kind of trauma or something that is going to cause us to have a need that's outside the average, we really need to start acknowledging that, because it's when we acknowledge that we're able to have eye-to-eye relationships with each other, and that is what humanizes each of us, as
Yeah.
opposed to lifting some on a pedestal going, oh, you're such an inspiration, which is really annoying to hear sometimes.
Mhm.
Or trampling people beneath your feet because you're seen as less than. So,
Yeah. So in your kind of work, you prefer the term like special needs because it can create physical and mental and just the whole, again, we're focusing on the whole person here.
yeah, it's the
Yeah.
whole person. And
Yeah.
also it's the fact that everybody needs to be able to acknowledge that, yes, I have special needs at some point in my life too.
And
Like
that's
that's
okay.
really, yeah, and that's important because it's something that a lot of times we don't want to acknowledge. We want to like separate ourselves and go, oh, you have special needs.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
don't.
Yes.
And that's not what humanizes us.
Yeah, that's a really great point. So obviously I'm in the Charlotte Mason space and you are as well. And I love that. And the question I get asked all the time, I just did a workshop last week contradicting like the traditional kind of factory model of modern education we have versus I call it the gentle path that Charlotte Mason puts us on. But the question I get asked all the time from people is, that sounds really nice and lovely, but my kid has XYZ. My kid struggles with blah, blah, blah. I'm like, so this won't work. And I'm like, so since you've been in this space so much and you work a lot, I'm assuming with families that also use the Charlotte Mason philosophy, amongst other things, what would your answer be to that question? Can you use the Charlotte Mason philosophy if your child has special needs?
You absolutely can. The thing is, you have to interpret Charlotte Mason's philosophy through a neurodiverse lens, or at least that's how I put it,
Yeah.
anyways. And I did rewrite her philosophy from a neurodiverse
Oh, I
lens.
want
That
to see this.
say, it's really cool though, because when you think about, honestly, like when you think about anything through a neurodiverse or special needs type lens, it really makes you question how we do things.
Mm,
Because what works for a special needs family most of the time is going to work for other families.
yes. Yeah,
But the reverse is not always true.
that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, because they've got other extra factors that need to be taken into account. And so when we look at Charlotte Mason's philosophy through a neurodiverse or special needs lens, however you want to look at it, or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't really matter to me. I think that when it comes to work, I got to say special needs kids are people too.
Mhm.
But I often describe myself as neurodiverse. So whatever part of that special needs kids or people to world you're coming from, if you look at it through that lens, it'll work. The
Yeah.
problem is figuring out how to look at it through that lens, because not everybody, one, has like spent the time to really delve into her massive six books.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not everybody has a background in child development, which would make that a whole lot easier, because there's been 100 years since she has been
Yes.
gone and where we are now, and we've had research since that time, but honestly, I can't ever point to anything in her book that goes against the research, which is really impressive 100 years later.
Oh yeah, totally. I actually have a Pinterest board. I think I still have it. And it was called Charlotte Mason is Right. And every time I would find like some research article, I'd be like, There you go,
Yeah.
there you go, there you go. And so if a parent is interested in trying this approach, how do they get that lens without having to read 6 volumes?
I'd read my book.
Okay, perfect.
But no, I have a chapter in the book on Charlotte Mason specifically because she did have such an impact on the perspective that I ended up developing. We have so many different influences who influence the perspective that we end up having.
Yeah.
And she's definitely one of the big ones. So at the end of that chapter is my rewrite of her principles.
Yes. Can I read them?
Yes, you
Get them
may.
out.
Woohoo!
Amy's principles. Behavior. We are respectful, kind, and appreciative to all creatures, including ourselves. Activity. We habitually prioritize what we believe is most important, not perfection. Parenting. Children are born persons worthy of respect and personal freedom. Spirituality. We take time daily to connect with our own spirits and spiritual practices. Education. We regularly partake in a rich and varied feast of ideas. Health. We listen to our bodies daily and provide them with what they need. And I love that because Charlotte Mason was radical in her day for even acknowledging that children could be persons, because back then they were just like ornaments and be quiet.
Yeah.
And the fact that she really wanted to work with children who were coming from disadvantaged, trauma, impoverished backgrounds and saying, no, these kids their minds are fully capable of handling these big ideas just like everybody else's. But that she was also looking at, you're saying, the child holistically, like body, mind, soul, spirit, like every part of a child, and not just educating that one academic kind of mind piece, but nourishing them as a whole child. So I love that your principles brought in kind of all that. Why is that especially, I believe this is important for all children, but why is this especially important for special needs children, for parents to embrace this holistic view?
It really is for all children and parents and families, because if we do not know what our own principles are, then we will parent from a state of reaction.
Yeah.
And parenting from a state of reaction, it is so limiting. When we parent from a state of reaction, we can't plan ahead to safeguard our children's individuality. One of the things that I talked about in the book is that my children often were described, we have a family therapist. I tell in the book multiple times, you need a family therapist. Everybody needs a family therapist. But she had pointed out that they are very secure and feel confident and secure. And she had pointed out that a lot of times it's because they felt like they had freedom, but I had fences set up to keep them safe. Every day, it's like they're going out into this big backyard of life that looks like a forest, and they think that they're trying their hand at being independent. What they don't know is that there's this 6-foot privacy fence surrounding them that's been camouflaged with lots of bushes.
Yeah.
I can't do those kinds of things to protect their individuality if I haven't thought ahead about what are my principles, who do I want to be as a parent. It's funny, a lot of times we think that special needs parenting is what we do for or to our children, but it's actually what we do to or for ourselves.
Wow. That's really beautiful. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So one of the things I discovered through parenting my own children, and it came out a lot in the book too, is that the work of parenting is really more parenting ourselves, because we don't know. There are so many things that we're still learning. And what is the greatest learning experience of our lives? I would argue it's parenting.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, nothing's going to look you in the face and call out your weaknesses, faults, anything like parenting is.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
going to bring everything up to the forefront, and you're going to have to deal with any baggage that you left unpacked because you're like, I don't want to deal with that. Oh, no, it's going to become an issue.
Yep.
And you
Yep.
either choose to deal with it and address it and grow, or you can choose not to. And choosing to usually leads to not so pleasant places to be in. And so what I realized is that my children have less baggage because they're grand spanking new. You know, they hadn't been here very long. They haven't had time to collect all of the baggage that mom has.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I listen to them, a lot of times they can be an excellent guide in some ways.
Mm,
A lot of times I will ask my kids opinions about if we're going to go to a house of worship or something, then I'm like, what do you think of this place? Because I'm coming at it with my years of experience.
yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
They're they don't have quite as much baggage. And recognizing that their ideas and their impressions are valuable to me,
Mm,
that's key. A lot of times we don't think about children from that perspective. I can't tell you the number of times I've heard a kid say, no one cares what I think. I'm just a kid.
yeah.
You know,
And that goes back to the part of respecting them as humans.
absolutely.
And I think narration does a lot of that. And if they're comfortable talking to you about what they thought about what they read about or what they saw in nature, and then you respect them, you don't correct them or
Yeah.
interrupt or things like that, and you respect their ideas and they feel heard in that respect. I really have seen in my own kids as well that it translates into the rest of their life as well. Like
It's true.
what I have to
It's
say is important. I get listened to all day long, and now I have this thing that happened at the playground, and now I can come talk to mom. Like
yeah.
it ties in.
Yeah.
It's not like school separate and this is what we do to make sure you learn and value you and make you feel seen and heard. No, it's like it all fits into this kind of broader category of I respect you as a person in all areas. So
Education is a life.
yes, exactly. um, so I love in the book you talk about the hero's journey and just the power of stories in shaping a person. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. So another one of my influences was Joseph Campbell, who wrote about the hero's journey, and was also influential in the development of Star Wars and so many other great stories that we tell.
Yeah.
Um, but I've always loved mythology. Mythology was like the thing that lit me on fire as a kid. I love stories, and that's I think why I love what I do is because people are walking stories and
Yes.
I love stories. So, at any rate, with the hero's journey, like this applies more, I think, to Western like mythology and literature more so than Eastern. Eastern has a little bit different hero's journey. There's some differences, but this idea that we all start out with someplace and we have a challenge that presents itself. And a lot of times there's a guide along the way, and that they help us find the tools and the skills to move through those difficult places.
Yeah.
And if you look at most Western literature, like you can quickly find the hero's journey in just about every story. I talked about a lot of different movies in the book because there's a lot of movies that also share that journey. And there was actually a memo at Disney during the time of The Lion King that was detailing out the hero's journey in film. But it's a fascinating concept that we have so many similarities. Like we're not as different as we think we are.
Mm,
Uh, Same things that drive you, me, everybody listening to this are generally speaking the same. We just talk about them in different ways.
yeah.
And we all need to eat to live. We all need to grow because if we're not growing, we're dying. We're all constantly learning new things. We have a lot more in common than we think we do. And really, that was something I was trying to get across with this book. In this book, you find references to all kinds of things, Eastern, Western mythology, and all kinds of things that maybe aren't your jam. And
Yeah.
that's okay. Because the whole point is to say, hey, all these things, we're all talking about the same thing. We all want to honor children as individuals. We all want to remember that children are people, body, mind, and soul, and we want to meet all of their needs.
Yeah. What power does these stories have on children, especially children with special needs? Like, why are this is important to incorporate into your family?
We've done a lot of research over the years about what do children need physically? What do children need mentally? But we have not spent as much time talking about how to feed a child's soul.
Mm.
And it's something that is unmeasurable and untouchable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we like measures and we like systems, and that doesn't fit into a neat little box.
No, it doesn't.
No.
It's why we keep deleting these subjects from like school
Yeah.
curriculum and stuff. And so I think that when it comes to nurturing a child's soul, all you have to do is look at the Bible. because the Bible uses stories. If you look at minister nationwide, most of the time they use stories.
Yeah.
So stories are part of the language of our soul. Same way with art and music as well. But stories are able to capture our ideas in a way
Yes.
that music and art does, but in a different way. And so that was why stories were so important to me, inspiring me personally, but also in how do we honor a child's soul? Because that's the question. Nobody ever talks about that because we can't measure it. We can't do a research study on
Charlotte
it.
Mason. No, I'm just kidding.
Except Charlotte Mason, but most people don't talk about that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. When you're planning out your year, it's what math curriculum are you using or what book you're going to read for US geography, not like how are you nourishing your child's soul on a regular basis?
And if you do end of the year testing or something for your state account, we showed progress in math, reading, and writing, but I'm not sure how to measure their soul.
Yeah. It's in the power of story to shape their empathy and their imagination and all these like intangibles that like you can't ask questions to like gauge their scale.
Yeah. And it gives you experiences that you cannot have yourself. And that grows us more than anything. How do you know what it's like to be autistic unless you are?
Right.
Read a story. There are so many things that I would like to do with my children that I can't because of like physical health problems.
Yeah.
But I can read them a story about it.
Yeah.
And then we can take a trip there in our minds. So I think stories, they're so important. And they're also important in many different ways. It's nurturing their soul. It's giving them opportunities to experience different people and different things and different ideas. And also, not to mention, we need the variety of stories because the stuff that is truly good, like floats to the top, I think, as maybe a flotsam on a river.
Yeah. Yeah. When parents are thinking through, I do feel like homeschooling provides like an ideal experience for children that have special needs because you can individualize things so much that they wouldn't get necessarily elsewhere. But are there any considerations that you would recommend for parents or like I want to start homeschooling my child. They might be first time homeschoolers or they're pulling them out of school. And I don't even know where to start now.
First of all, almost any homeschooler is going to tell you start with deschooling. Just stop. Right. Because we need to think about it's the same thing about my principal.
Yep.
You want to think about what do we want out of an education. And most of the time we don't think about that coming from like a public or private school setting because we're all under the Prussian model, which is and also, I mean, it's been influenced by the Industrial Revolution and all these other things. And so it's all the same model, no matter pretty much which school you go to, unless you're going to like a Montessori school or something like that. So you need to really think about what do I want this education to be? And you need to take a break so that you can figure that out, but also so you can see what that looks like, because otherwise you're just going to fall into the same old patterns and you're going to be doing school at home. And it's not really going to make a difference, except for the fact that it's a smaller setting. The teachers, it's one-on-one. You can choose a social environment that is more suited to your child, but it's not going to make a real difference in their education unless you really sit down and think, what do we want? What fits this child? What fits our family? Obviously, I'm a little bit biased. I'd say go with Charlotte Mason. And I often will recommend families look at A Gentle Thief too, just because it's gentle and gentle helps. But I do think whatever you do, stories are important. We've gotten away from stories in so many ways. Storytelling can be such a part of culture. And in some ways it still is. People still watch like videos or Netflix, and that's storytelling.
Yes, right.
But we also want to think about the stories that we're telling and the influence that they have. That's why a wide variety of stories is so important. That's why Charlotte Mason wrote about that, because it's with the wide variety of stories that protects us, because stories have also been used to do great damage too. Stories have been used as propaganda, and propaganda has influenced people's decisions to do horrible things in our history. And what protects us from falling prey to propaganda is to read widely, to share stories widely, even stories we don't agree with, because
Yes.
it makes us ask questions.
Yes. Yeah,
So.
that is wonderful. So you quoted from my favorite book, so thank you. Jane
Which
Eyre.
one? Because there's a lot of them.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you did a great job of, you had a lot of, I'm a big research junkie, and so I appreciated that it wasn't fluff. So your book is not twaddle. It has a lot of meat, a lot to chew on, a lot of ideas. And like you said, there might be some things where people are like, ooh, I don't know what I think about that. And I love that because it was like, that's an interesting comment. Oh, that's an interesting, I don't know what I think about that. I love reading stuff like that because I love being challenged. I don't want someone to just spoon feed me everything that I already know. Challenge me, please. So your book did a fantastic job with
I
that.
don't want anybody thinking the same thing I think. I want to present you with a lot of different ideas to think about and chew on, but your conclusions may be a little bit different from mine. That's fine.
Yeah. No, I love that. I definitely got that vibe from the book, which is great.
I'm glad.
So yes, you quoted Jane Eyre, and the quote is, children can feel, but they cannot analyze their feelings. And if the analysis is partially affected in thought, they know not how to express the result of the process in words. And you talk about executive functioning skill of metacognition and how that can be dampened in a lot of children with special needs. But I feel like just children in general and adults in general don't really have that skill, even if they have great executive functioning, the ability to like, recognize your feelings and then analyze and express them, like that whole emotional intelligence that's now finally part of the conversation when we're talking about educating children. So can you touch a little bit on the importance of that?
Yeah. In order to be able to express your feelings, you have to have what we call interoception, where we're looking at like our bodies and going, okay, so how do I feel? And what am I noticing? Am I hungry? This is why parents get to the middle of the day and they're like, why am I so grumpy? And then they're like, oh my gosh, I haven't had anything to eat or peed all day. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I should probably do that. So interoception.
Mamas are people too.
That's right. Mamas are people too. So interoception is really important. And that's how we learn about how we feel. So unless you are in touch with how you feel, you are not going to be able to express your feelings well. And this is particularly challenging in some ways with different kinds of developmental differences, because as your brain develops, it needs the whole of the brain to be able to develop those executive functioning skills. And a lot of times our sensory processing can be out of balance and it can make it difficult to hear. I have 3 rare diseases, by the way. I got my 3rd diagnosis this past year. And the 3rd one is Ehlers-Danlos, and it usually comes with a lot of joint pain. Most autistic people who have it don't feel the joint pain.
Interesting.
And I think some of it is because our sensory pathways and our interoception, it's not the way it would be because our development has happened differently. And in some ways, there are some advantages. I'm not going to lie, there's some advantages. But knowing yourself, that's really critical. Because it's not until you know yourself that you can actually purposefully make decisions, what we were talking about earlier about knowing your own principles, so that you can parent from a place that's not reactionary. So if you want to be a full person, which, I mean, we're all full people, but if you really want to be able to move through this world and make choices that honor the person that you are, you have to know who you are first.
Right. Yeah.
And it takes a lot of work. I know you're aware of that. Like you talked about that.
As a life coach, that's what I do. All day long, helping people.
But it is so true. And especially with kids that have any kind of special need, we spend a lot of our lives looking outside ourselves, going, ooh, okay, so everybody else is doing this. I should probably do this because then this will happen that happened to them. And that's what I want to happen. And we're making things happen. And then all of a sudden it blows up in our face and we're like, oh my goodness, that wasn't supposed to happen. And it's like a landmine, like you step on a landmine and you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
Whether it's a social thing where you're saying something and you're like, okay, why did they take that so badly? Because that was supposed to go well and that did not go
No one is laughing.
Why is no one laughing?
That happens to me all the time.
Yeah, me too. It's really important because we spend so much time looking outside of ourselves. We do not spend enough time looking inside of ourselves. Is my heart rate elevated? I'm feeling anxious. I don't even know what it feels like when my body's anxious. I'm not even sure I know that. Am I hungry? Does this make me happy? Is this something I find pleasure in? Things like that may get lost in the opinions of everybody else.
So how is we as parents, because I know like from a coaching perspective, how to help like a mom with that, but how do we help our kids start to have that metacognition and think about their thinking?
So this is where it gets fun. It starts by doing it for yourself.
That's what I tell parents all the time.
What you do for you. All right.
Amy, it's so much easier just to focus on fixing them. That takes so much more mental energy off of myself. And then I don't have to actually deal with all this. I can just fix them, right?
That's the point of the book, actually. Yeah. Like in a nutshell, it's we have to work on ourselves if we want to support our children. Charlotte Mason is a perfect inspiration for some of this because she talks about how education is an atmosphere, habit, and a life. And atmosphere, a lot of times posts in the Charlotte Mason world about, oh, what do you think about this decor? Is this decor appropriate? And I remember making those posts back when like my kids first started doing Charlotte Mason because
I highly recommend pink and disco balls. Just saying.
I love
it. It's going to be the new homeschool decor. Wait, just watch for it.
Yes, exactly. That's awesome. But in a way, it's perfect. Hold on a second.
The cats help too with the atmosphere.
Unless it's mine. So the atmosphere is really important because your atmosphere is not how your home looks. Mm-hmm. Your atmosphere is who you are. Mm-hmm. And so in your case, pink and disco balls may be very appropriate for your homeschool. But, and that's the thing. We want to be as authentically ourselves as possible, because when we are authentically ourselves, then we create an atmosphere that is who we are, who we are already. I think the thing is that sometimes we feel like I'm not good enough as I am, so I need to change in this way. I need to create a better atmosphere for my children because who I am isn't enough. Mm-hmm. And the reality is that you were chosen for your child's parent for a reason because you have wonderful things to offer. Mm-hmm. And it's only when we are willing to accept ourselves that we're really truly able to accept our children.
Wow. Okay, mic drop right there. Can we say it louder for the people in the back, Amy?
Yes, you must accept yourself in order to be able to accept your children.
That is so beautiful.
Hard. That is hard sometimes.
Oh, it's very hard. And I totally relate to everything you're saying. Like when I first started homeschooling, I thought like my house and my atmosphere, even like myself, like I had to be like Victorian, and I'm doing Charlotte Mason, so we have to have all the dainty stuff, and my house has to be like all just so flowery and pretty and beautiful, and that's not me. And I can listen to classical music because Charlotte Mason is beautiful. Now I can appreciate it, but like I'd rather listen to ABBA. And so it's like, why am I not being myself for my children? Once I finally could grow in the confidence and love for that, I was able to do that for my kids. And they don't have to like what I like. I know that's fine, but we're going to go see the ABBA tribute band together because I like it and I'm paying for it. Yeah. And you want to go do something else and you like something else, that's fantastic too. But like they got to see me come alive. And I think it's been like the biggest difference in our homeschool atmosphere. Just me being a passionate, holistic person, me focusing on all those principles you had about my physical health and my mental health and my nutrition. You talk about that in the book. Once I got, and I used to think that was, I don't have time for that, and that I should be focusing on this. And I was just like letting myself become completely empty as like a kind of like martyr of, I'm doing all this for everybody else. Once I started like healing me as a person, it completely changed everything.
And it frees them up to feel like it's safe to be themselves. If you don't feel like you can be yourself, they're not going to feel like it's safe to be themselves.
Today's episode is brought to you by A Gentle Feast. A Gentle Feast offers a complete living books curriculum, an award-winning early reading program, and more tools to equip you to apply Charlotte Mason's timeless philosophy into your modern homeschool. Go to agentlefeast.com to check it out. Smooth and easy days are closer than you think. Right. Yeah, that's really good. You mentioned in the book about this concept of self-actualization, which kind of ties in what we've been talking about. Can you break that down for people?
Okay, so I talk a lot, and this is my third guy who influenced me, Charlotte Mason, Joseph Campbell, and Abraham Maslow, who wrote Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs, which is like this little pyramid, and it starts with like physical needs and goes up to safety needs. But the very pinnacle of the original one was self-actualization. He later expanded it to include 8 different steps, and so it was self-actualization and transcendence. And so the idea of self-actualization is that honestly, that we become authentically ourselves and that we live from a place of authenticity. That's really what it is. What's fascinating is that when he was writing his work, he was inspired by the Blackfoot tribe in North America. And he was inspired by them because they see their children born as already self-actualized. And they had much higher rates of self-esteem than people in his own culture.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so it's a very different perspective. So they saw children as being fully self-actualized and that they had their own unique gifts and strengths to bring to the table, and that it was their job to bring those strengths, and it was the adult's job to accept it. And I was like, okay, now hold on a second. That's kind of Charlotte Mason-y in a way, because children are born persons. They're already full people. They already have stuff that they're bringing to the table.
Yeah. And I think it's important, like and you mentioned that like in the book with the hierarchy of needs. And of course, this is something we learned in my college education program. But if they don't have that safety and their physical needs, not just eat today, but are we eating like food that's actually like nourishing our bodies today and things like that, then like getting to the top of the pyramid is so challenging, and working through some of these academic challenges become that much more challenging. And I love in the book, you're saying like when you meet with families, it's okay, let's look at this bottom rung first. Is your child have like a vision thing? What are they eating? Do they have a food allergy? Like things that we don't think about. We just want the top stuff.
Yeah, people are always confused when we get on a consult call, and I'm like, so let's talk about the medication your kid is on. Let's talk about what they're eating. Let's talk. And then like last 15 minutes of 2 hours, I'm like, okay, so now let's talk about education. But they're always really confused by that, but it's true. It's like building a house. You have to get a solid foundation, get all those basic needs met. It's what leads to the rest of it. And self-actualization in the shortened version actually encompasses academics. That's where academics fall, not lower down. And a lot of times when we deal with education, we start with education, but we're starting at the top of the pyramid or the top of the ladder, however you want to look at it.
Yeah. And I think that, you tell me if I'm wrong here, but just from my experience, that oftentimes if a child has special needs and they realize I don't think the same way that these people think, and they start to recognize that at a certain age, or kids in my Sunday school class are able to read this and I can't, right? That can really affect their sense of self-actualization, their ability to see themselves as worthy people. So how as parents can we help children on that path when they're already like thinking, I'm not going to get there? That makes sense.
So this is something that was really important to me. This is probably one of the personal things that led me to write the book. It wasn't conscious, but growing up, I definitely felt like I wasn't doing things like everybody else was. I wasn't learning like everybody else was. I didn't seem to know what I was supposed to say. The things I'd say that I thought would be funny weren't funny. And just all of these things that can make you feel like you don't fit or there's something wrong with you, which is very often how kids feel. They feel like something's wrong with them because kids have a much smaller worldview. And so when they look around them and they don't see people like them, then they assume it's because there's something wrong with them.
Right.
That's the automatic assumption almost every single time. And so, one, it is very important that we include people in our life that are different, And especially if we can find other adults who maybe were like our kids when they were little, they can be extremely helpful to us because
Yes.
they can give us
Yes.
insights that we don't have.
Mhm.
So that's really helpful. It's also, it is a very, it is a sad thing when a kid feels like there's something wrong with me. And we've had some challenges with not that specifically, but in this realm with our own kids, because both of them are autistic, but they're completely opposite. Like one taught himself to read by the time he was 2, and the other one didn't learn to read till 9.5. Like they did everything completely opposite. And so one of the conversations that we have at our house a lot is, okay, so you know what? You're really good at reading, and that's awesome. You
Mhm.
know what? You're really good at comprehension. Your reading comprehension is amazing. I know reading sucks for you. It's just not great. But your comprehension's amazing. And hey, you've got great reading ability. But you know what? Your comprehension, it's not as strong. But that's okay
Yeah.
because you do not get a strength without also getting a weakness. That's how it works. So you
Mhm.
have to be appreciative of the weaknesses you have because those are what give you your strength. And so having these conversations, opening up the door to talk about them instead of making them the elephant in the room
Yes.
is incredibly important. But you also don't want to have the conversation in a way of, oh, you're the sports kid and you're the academic kid. That's apples and oranges, not the same thing.
Right.
And you also don't want to have the conversation as where we're trying to boost their self-esteem because spoiler, it doesn't work. Self-esteem
But
comes
you mean
from,
I can't control that for my children?
turns out, no.
Oh.
Actually, it turns out there's very few things we can control when it comes to our children.
Yes, 100%. As having adult children, I can testify. There you go.
That is I think the great secret, I think, of parenting, or maybe the the hidden thing of
Yeah.
parenting is that we think we have control in how they're going to turn out, that we get to raise them, and that's going to have a huge impact on the people that they become, and it does to a point. But there's a lot of who they are that's just them.
Mm-hmm.
And as they get older, they will take those experiences that they had in your house and it will mix with the people that they already are. And you will see all kinds of things come out that you were like, and I think that's one of the things that stresses parents.
For sure. Because we want a system. I
Yeah.
input this, I output is this, and it's perfect and it's exactly how I want it to be.
Yes. And
Yeah.
let's be honest, the reason that we do that is because we're afraid. We,
100%. Right.
we're afraid of the things that could happen to our kids. And we want
Because we love
to,
them. It's completely
yeah.
natural that we'll have that emotion. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and actually I talk about that in the book too. There's so many like little bits and pieces that came out from all of this, and a lot of it came out of my experiences myself as a kid growing up, and then the people that influenced me and led me to where I am now, because it was a process.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And no, and I think it's great. Yeah. I think it's good that you were able to meld the two. It wasn't like a complete memoir, but it was also very research based, but you brought in that personal aspect, which made it more engaging. So you did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
So I have one last question, and this is a
Okay.
question I get all the time, and I don't think you addressed it in the book, but I'm just going to ask you because you're sitting here and you're captive
Yeah.
audience. One of the questions I get asked about a lot, even if their child doesn't necessarily have special needs or they're not sure, or sometimes it is related, but lots of kids do this, is what do I do in the middle of our school day and my child has a complete meltdown?
Oh,
They don't want to do XYZ, or they get too emotional, or they're completely, I call it like they're in one of the trauma responses. They're fighting you, they're freezing, they're fawning, they're like all the trauma responses happening. And us as parents, we're like, so that's a question I get all the time. And I'm like, I know who to talk to.
yeah. So there's a little bit of it in the book, but it's not direct. So meltdowns do happen and they happen for everybody at some point in their lives. They just get too overwhelmed and it's usually like a physical or safety type issue that has gone unmet. And that I have found is the case most of the time with me when I have one, which I do have them.
Oh yeah, me
Um,
too.
yeah, we all do, but sometimes it's really fun. And I'm well being sarcastic there because it can be a real challenge and it can be a real frustration for parents. One of the things I like to do with my own kids is that's a late sign. And I'm going to actually give you guys a couple practicalities here since we're talking about it, because the book is more like philosophical and didn't get into a lot of the practicalities, which.
That's why I wanted to ask this question, because it's literally, I get this asked on a daily basis.
So there is a cycle to a meltdown, and it's a bell curve. So you start out at the bottom and you're going, okay, everything's going great. And then all of a sudden there's this trigger and you may not even notice it. And things start to escalate a little bit. And then you reach the point of no return. You are on the roller coaster. You are not getting off. You better just throw your hands in the air and scream because you don't have an option.
Make sure you buckle up, right?
Yes. Yeah, make sure you've buckled up. And then, so you're going through the meltdown at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then you reach the point where the meltdown is over, but you have not recovered yet. Like you're exhausted. You are not in a place where you want to talk about what has happened or what you need to fix or any of that. Like you need some recovery time.
Yes.
And then finally, after we get through the recovery time, then we come down to this part where, okay, we've recovered and now we can deal with what happened. How should we do things differently next time? What can we change? Did we figure out what need that was going unmet? All of those kinds of things. So that's the cycle that we go through. When my kids reach meltdown mode, I'm notorious for sending them to their room because it is their safe place. It is not as punishment. It is, you need time to meet your needs. I need you to go there. Then it gives me time to deal with all the rest of it. And it's also teaching a really important skill. When you reach that point, go take time for yourself. And it also protects the people around you if you can develop that skill. And it's a skill to develop that. Like it's a full out habit. And you want to make sure that kids don't feel unheard, like I'm not listening to you. So one of my kids, I will make her a cup of tea. I will play her favorite music outside her door. Like I'm bringing all of the coping tools that she needs and bringing them to her because she doesn't always have the skills at that moment to go find what she needs. I got another one though who really needs to feel heard. And so for him, I'll go to his room and be like, do you need a hug? Because sometimes that's all we really need. Like we've done the screaming and the yelling, and I pretend that I don't hear what they say in their room. Because when you're in that moment, you will say all kinds of big words to express your big feeling. I just pretend I don't hear it. And I'll go in and I'm like, you need a hug. And sometimes that's the thing. And then our meltdown is over. So each kid is different, but we want to help them find what they need because kids go into a meltdown because they need something.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So what you said is so great. I just want to highlight on a few things. So I think oftentimes when our child's melting down, we get emotionally dysregulated.
Oh, yeah.
And then we don't know how to handle ourselves.
That's even worse.
Yes.
Yes. And that's the really hard thing. Like you really have to take, when I was doing yoga teacher training, we called it taking the seat of the witness. So instead of being mom, we're thinking about ourselves as being outside mom's body and watching mom doing things. We are not emotionally involved. We are just doing the things, moving through the process. You can think of it however works for you. You can think of yourself as being like Dr. Strange on the Marvel movies, whatever visual works for you. I don't care. Pick your visual.
Yeah, you're like emotionally detaching, like seeing yourself from up here. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
That metacognition, like overview.
Yes, you need that because that is what keeps you from becoming involved in the meltdown yourself. And it is not a failing of the child. It's not a failing of parenting. It is the fact that we all have needs and sometimes those needs don't get met. And sometimes it just reaches a pitch where we don't know how to cope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that because I think it takes some of that pressure off because in that moment, it's like, what did I do wrong? I'm failing. I need to fix this. My child shouldn't feel this way. I need to solve the problem rather than, and then we see our children as problems to be solved rather than people to help give skills to.
Yeah, and meltdowns really aren't a problem. They are an expression.
Yeah.
that I have a need that we haven't accounted for. And really, it's never a goal of getting to a point where we don't have meltdowns or getting to a point where we can deal with them perfectly. Meltdowns are there to help us continue to grow and learn. Hopefully, as we grow and learn, we get better so that it's more constructive. Because when we're little, or when we're first working on working through meltdowns, or sometimes it takes a long time, they can be destructive. And what we want is we want to teach families to be constructive in how they deal with them. And it's a whole family thing. It's not a one person thing. The one person might be the one who's having the full blown meltdown, but how we treat them in that meltdown determines how they're going to expect to be treated as they grow up. So if we tell them that they have been sinful, they have been wrong, and we focus in on the shame part of it, then we're not going to make much progress, because you cannot shame someone into being more effective. What we need to do is give them the tools to see themselves positive light, so that they can use that positivity to grow.
I mean, you could shame someone into suppressing all their feelings,
but that's not actually fixing the issue.
Yeah, we all know, we all as adults go, okay, that didn't work.
Yeah.
The feelings are still there, and now we got to learn to process them as adults, because we were never allowed to have them as children. So it's okay. Allow your space. And I love the idea of like creating like a safety space. Like, I'm not saying this is not a punishment. You did nothing wrong. I'm not shaming you. It's not like I can't be around you. Go away. This is a safe place. Let me give you some tools inside of this space, relaxing music or tea, or you want to punch a pillow, like whatever, like that you can have this space and you can learn what you need. But I also love that question, because it's one of the questions I teach my moms to ask themselves. It's a question we hardly ever ask ourselves when we're upset, of what would actually make me feel better?
Exactly.
What do I need?
Yes, and it really is a question of what do I need? And I also mentioned in the book about rules, because you have principles, but then you have rules. And the rules in our house, you have to think about the rules you really want, because odds are no one's going to remember more than about 3, and a parent can't consistently enforce more than about 3. And so as our kids got older, when they were little, it was very concrete things like, we keep our bottoms in our chair, because if you have your bottom in your chair, you can't do a headstand in your chair, you can't cartwheel off your chair. Yeah, there's so many other rules that I don't have to make, because the first rule was we keep our bottom in the chair. But as they got older, it got to things like, we are kind, we do our work, we're truthful, things like that. And there really aren't a lot of consequences involved. It's really more about the relationship and talking it over. And they will call me out too on those rules. If I break one of the rules, they'll call me out. And I am totally okay with that, because it's a relationship. And when we have respectful relationships with our kids, they feel safe to be themselves and to express their opinions and to figure out the kind of person that they want to grow into.
Yeah. So that's great. I knew this was going to be a wonderful conversation, because we always have
a great time.
And you always give me such food for thought. Definitely a lot of wonderful tidbits in our conversation today, for sure. And you have a special gift for everybody. Can you talk about that?
I do. So I have what I call my special needs membership group. Now, if you heard me talking earlier about special needs, then you know that I think everyone has special needs. So you do not need some kind of special diagnosis or something to access that. The only requirement is that you acknowledge that you have special needs enough to sign up. But I am giving you a free month of my membership group, just to check it out and see if maybe that is a great opportunity for you to grow and learn as a parent, but also for your kids to grow and learn too. It's a really unique type of membership. You have free yearly testing included. I don't do that in the first month. You have to stick around for a little while. That's a lot of work. But as parents stick around, some have been around for multiple years, I'm able to look back at their test scores, and I can help guide you as we go and go, hey, you know what? We got a little problem here. We've regressed a little bit in this subject, and we need to do some work here, because we've got some kind of processing issue that's gone missed, and we want to catch it before it becomes a big, hairy deal. And a lot of times I'll find it before the parent knows, because I'm looking at the
Yeah.
change. It's like going to your family doctor where they like weigh and measure your kid and
Yeah.
they're like, okay, good, you're still growing and
Yeah.
everything just the way you're supposed to. It's the same thing. But it's also like a co-op because we have parents who create events. Next week, we're starting a cubing club and an origami club
What's cubing?
and cubing. Oh, Rubik's cubes. Those are
Oh,
in the special needs
wow.
community, let me tell
That
you.
is so cool.
Yeah, we do Minecraft, we've got a yoga, like family show and tell thing. There's a little bit of everything, and you don't have to do everything. You pick and choose what you like. There's a
Yes.
kids book club, but there's also opportunities for parent support too, because yes, I can check your test scores every year and kind of give you some guidance, but there's always those moments along the way, like some of the moments we've been talking about today about meltdowns and things like that, where people have questions, they're not sure how to navigate it, and they want to have a perspective where, you know, somebody has been there and done that, both personally as a parent and as
Yeah.
a professional. And so we've got weekly office hours, we've got a parents book discussion group, and it's always a book focused on some kind of special need topic of some kind.
That's a
Long-
fantastic resource. It's fantastic that you are offering that. And thank you for giving my audience a free month. That will be in the show notes, right? You'll give me a code that
Yes,
they can use. Okay.
yes.
So, yes, we will put that on the website in the show notes. And how else can people find out about you and the resources and the opportunities that you offer if they want some help and guidance in this area?
So you can go to my website. We say it's as easy as ABC. A is for ally through our podcast and merch. B is for boost your educational skills through our boost resources. And the book is one of those resources. And then C is connect through the membership and consultations. And other than that, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. I do have a free online Facebook support group. We just don't have as much going on in there because we save most of that for the paid membership because protecting children's individuality and
Yeah.
security is very important to me.
Yes,
So
extremely.
I'll talk about anything you want in the membership group.
Yeah.
Like, we can talk about toileting, whatever, but I'm a little bit more careful on
No,
social
in the world we live in today with Meta, I
privacy.
100% agree with that. That is
Yeah.
extremely important, and I'm glad you're doing that. So yes, we'll put all of this in the show notes, how people can get in touch with you and how they can get the free month. So thank you so much for joining me today. This has been such a delightful conversation. I'm so grateful for the work you're doing.
Thank you so much, Julie. I really appreciate you having me on. I really love all that you do. It's one of the reasons I was so excited because it's easy to talk to you. It's like talking to a BFF.
You are my BFF, girl.
I love it. My Charlotte.
Wow, what an amazing conversation with Amy Bodkin. Was your mind blown as much as mine was? Well, let me recap some main points from today's episode. So first of all, we need to have a holistic approach. This ensures that we cater to the emotional and personal development needs comprehensively. Rather than focusing solely on behavior modification or academic achievements, it's crucial to consider the child's emotional and spiritual well-being. That Charlotte Mason's approach can be adapted to all children, but we need to make sure that we're viewing our children through a neurodiverse lens. Stories are so powerful. Stories hold immense power in shaping a child's empathy, imagination, and understanding of the world. They provide experiences and lessons that children might not encounter in their daily lives, and this fosters emotional and intellectual growth. Stories are not just for entertainment. Stories are the vital part of a holistic education. We need to remember that meltdowns are a natural expression of unmet needs and understand their cycle so that we can help our children manage their emotions. We need to remember that self-actualization is the pinnacle of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It is about becoming authentically oneself. We need to encourage our children to embrace their unique strengths and weaknesses and foster a sense of self-worth and personal growth within them. If you want more information about all the amazing resources that Amy talks about and provides for homeschool families, make sure to check out the show notes for today's episode. Hey there, Julie Ross here. I just wanted to say thank you for listening to today's episode. If you like this show, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a positive review in iTunes. This really does help people learn about the podcast. And each month I will pick a winner to receive a free gift. Don't forget to check out all the free resources we created for you at thefeastlife.me. Thank you.